If you have a topic you want to see me cover and you want to be included in the next episode of Fighting Game Therapy, go down to the description below, find my Twitter, and shoot me a DM. I hope to hear from you soon. Welcome to the second episode of Fighting Game Therapy. Today we've got some really good advice that was sent in to me by Isaac_FGC on Twitter. And he really wanted me to shout out the St. Louis FGC in case anybody who's watching this video happens to be in the area and doesn't know about their local scene. Definitely reach out. So with that said, let's get into it. The thing I would recommend trying is complimenting your opponent while you play. Things like, damn, you've got those combos. Yeah, that's fair. I was mashing. And just trying to enjoy when your opponent does something cool. I think this is a key difference why playing with friends is so different from playing with random people online. My theory is that by doing this, it will help with two things. Help shift your thoughts away from personal negative bias. It's natural for people to over-focus on mistakes. It's much easier to focus first on how other people are doing things well. By practicing this, the goal is to see your own strengths in matches as well. Help shift your locus of control. This is a psych term that I'm probably misusing, but the concept is, do you see responsibility/control as resting on yourself or things outside of yourself? Scrub quotes is when a person's locus of control is never themselves. I feel like in fighting games, it is good to distinguish that your opponent is also working their butt off. In the long term, you're in control, but in the short term, your opponent is sharing a lot of control in the outcome. I also think by complimenting your opponent, it can help you dismantle their game plan, but I'm primarily focused on how this helps long-term enjoyment of fighting games. And then he just goes on to say, let me know your thoughts and everything like that. Before I make a response or anything like that, I just want to thank you for sending me this advice. It's really a piece of gold in what can sometimes be a pretty big dumpster of comments that just are really rude and mean. So seeing things like this are always nice. And again, if you have something like this you want to say, you can always DM it to me and you might be included in the next episode. But that's enough of that. Let's get down to business, right? First thing I want to talk about is complimenting your opponent. A person who does this very well is Broly Legs. Anytime I'm in Discord and he's playing ranked, he's always like, oh, nice jump, right? Or like, you know, nice hit or whatever. Whatever happens to him, he takes it on the chin, right? Rarely, if ever, does he genuinely get angry at what somebody else does. And I think that's how he's able to play so much in like very long sessions too. And so I've kind of experienced that firsthand. I also think it helps to kind of break down your ego when you match against somebody who you feel like, you know, I should beat this matchup pretty easily, or I should beat this person very easily, or how they play shouldn't be a problem for me. And it starts to humanize the other person on the other end of that connection, right? With COVID and playing online a lot, sometimes you forget that on the other side of that connection is a person playing the game just as hard as you are, that they're trying just as hard as you are. And so when you lose to something, it's not like you're losing to a robot or an AI. You're losing to somebody who's putting in just as much, if not more effort than you. Now let's talk about that first point that says it will help shift your thoughts away from personal negative bias. It's natural for people to focus on mistakes, and it's much easier to focus first on how other people are doing things well. By practicing, this goal is to see your own strengths in matches as well. I'm really glad that he brought this up. I think this is a very common thing for a lot of fighting game players just because of the nature of the game, where it's 1v1 and the only person who can genuinely improve how you are playing is yourself. So we are very hard on ourselves when things don't go the way that we plan. I just think it takes a lot of discipline to learn a fighting game because there are rules you have to abide by in the form of like frame data and different universal mechanics that the game has. And these can almost act as rules that you need to follow in order to play the game correctly, right? Like you need to know when it's your turn and when it's not your turn, and when you're plus and when you're minus, and when things are in your favor and when they're not, and what you want to do on wake up. There's a lot of things that you need to learn and be able to remember and use at a moment's notice. And all of that starts with doing research and labbing and you know, looking at frame data and being a very disciplined learner in and out of the game. And I'm not talking about people who just get on and mash buttons. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are really trying to get good at the game. Because if we're going to talk about mashing, it takes discipline to not just walk into the game and mash, right? Like to actually realize that your buttons have a purpose and you need to use them for a certain purpose. And I feel like people who are disciplined enough to get to a certain stage in fighting games, or just disciplined people in general in your everyday life, you do what you need to get done, can be very hard on themselves whenever things don't go the way that they need them to, or the way that they planned, or the way that they intended them to. And this sort of plays into Isaac's second point that he put in the Twitter DM that talks about locus of control. Now, if you took a psychology class in school, you might remember this, but if you don't, having an internal locus of control means that you believe that the outcomes of your actions are a result of your own abilities. You believe that your hard work will lead you to like a positive outcome. While having an external locus of control, you generally believe that your success or failure results from external factors beyond your control, right? Like luck and fate and destiny and all that. And I feel as though a lot of strong fighting game players that I've interacted with and played with in person and online have a very strong internal locus of control and are very disciplined. They learn the matchups they need to, they learn the characters they want to, and they figure it out. That doesn't mean that they don't over-fixate on their mistakes and really beat themselves up for losing to certain players. They lose to people that they feel they should have beat, or after a big tournament win, they lose a game the day after, and that amount of frustration and all of those negative feelings is doubled because of how much pressure they have put on themselves to make this hard work pay off. There is definitely a balance to be struck there. It's just hard to do that in a community that values placings and finishes in tournaments so highly. If you don't believe me, think about the beginning of Street Fighter V when Daigo was switching from Ryu to Guile and he wasn't doing so well. And people were saying, oh, Daigo's washed, Daigo's trash, Daigo's this, that, and the other. And look at him now. He's won the CPT online like 3 or 4 times at this point. He's still strong as ever. It's just some people value those tournament results so much that it puts an immense amount of pressure, I think, on even the top players who are some of the most hard-willed people that you'll ever meet. That's all to say that everything that Isaac said here doesn't only just apply to you or me. It applies to everybody at every level, from beginner to the top. Everybody falls somewhere within this range of things that he had to say. And so although this video started out with complimenting your opponent and giving them credit for the things that they're doing in the game, I think this message has provoked so many other thoughts that I wanted to share, and that's why I thought it was such a great message and piece of advice that I wanted to share with you guys. I think that about sums up my response. There's a few like housekeeping items I want to talk about, just about the channel in general real quick, though, while I have you guys here. As of right now, I don't have any more DMs, so if you guys have something you want me to talk about, DM me on Twitter, because I'm kind of out of topics at this point. You don't have to follow me or anything on there to message me. I think my DM should be open, so shoot me a message. It doesn't have to be specifically fighting game related either. It can be about any other genre of game or gaming in general, or esports, or your live. You know, it doesn't really matter. Just send me a message, and if I use it in the video, I'll use it and credit you. And if you want me to keep it anonymous, leave it in the DMs, and I'll blur your name out or whatever too. That's always an option. You can send whatever really, and if I feel like it's not a good topic, I'll just won't use it. But if I do, I'll use it and I'll let you know, and we'll get it figured out. As far as some other stuff on the channel, I'm gonna be going back to Houston pretty soon. I will be at DreamHack in Dallas June 3rd through 5th. I'll be playing in Street Fighter V, so maybe I get somebody to record some of my matches on my phone or something, and we'll make a video about that. But I just wanted to let you guys know I will be back in Houston, which means I probably won't have as many uploads on there because I'll be with my parents. I don't want to wake anybody up at night talking to my computer. I'll have to find some time during the day or in the afternoon to record while I'm there. As far as my own personal progression, you can see here I'm playing on my main account, playing some Cammy, just playing against whoever the game matches me against, all skill levels, everything. It's been really fun. Like there's a lot of different playstyles you run into when you queue up in the diamond ranks, because again, it'll put you against diamond, but also put you all the way up against warlord players. So you play a very big spectrum of players, which is really good practice for tournaments, right? Because you really never know who you're going to get in bracket. But yeah, I think that's it. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking around. Again, DM me on Twitter, whatever topic you want me to talk about, and I'll talk to you again soon. And subscribe if you haven't already.